So here I am looking for the official conclusion, and it's staring me in the face the whole time. I was going back through my notes and looking at the things I wanted to cover in my book, and I had this question of what is the official conclusion? I know the official allegation, a double murder-suicide. We see that as early as the second press release from the Apple Valley Police Department at about 11:40 a.m. January 18th, less than 24 hours after they find these bodies. They are accusing David Crowley of a double murder-suicide. When does it end? Where is the end? What is the official conclusion? In the Philip Marshall case, we got this, I think, 15-page report from the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office. I was kind of expecting something similar, something that would help everybody understand why the police, why the authorities, why the investigators came to the conclusion that David Crowley is guilty. I was expecting to see that there was something else out there. There was more out there, that they had documentation, that they had something that actually showed that David Crowley is guilty. I was expecting to see something, anything. And I looked and I looked and I went back through all of the documents that we had. Where is the official conclusion? When did this whole case end? When was it wrapped up? What is it? What do we have here? What do they have? And I'll tell you, I was really shocked. I was really shocked because at first I thought, okay, maybe I just missed it. But no, it was there. It was there in front of my face the whole time. It was there. Page 92 of 94 in the Apple Valley Police reports. It's right there. That's their conclusion. That is their final conclusion. That's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing more. Page 92 is it. I'm still a little shocked about it. I still find it hard to believe page 92 is the official conclusion. There's nothing else. This is it. This is supposed to solve the whole case here. This is the conclusion. I was shocked. I was shocked for two reasons. Well, first reason was kind of like it was already there. I had already assumed that page 92 was the unofficial conclusion. I had no idea that it is the official and final conclusion. That's it. That's all you get. So page 92 is written by Brian Bone. This is dated 10/7/2015, 1:08 p.m. The case is closed. It is exceptionally cleared. Okay, so the statement talks about the Dakota County Electronic Crime Task Force. They get all of this data, these terabytes of data. They go through these terabytes of data. Guess what they find?
Nothing.
Big shock here. Nothing. They did not find any information on the related devices that showed motive or cause for what happened during this or up to this incident. With the conclusion of the review of the digital devices, there is no other information available for further investigation. At 10/6, that's it. The terabytes of data was the last thing. It was the last thing that they were waiting for. On October 6, 2015, the case is closed.
Goodbye.
It's done. Throughout this investigation, the AVPD has not discovered any information or evidence that shows anybody but David Crowley is the perpetrator of these crimes, including the killing of his wife, child, and himself. And the status is changed to exceptionally cleared. So here is the real challenge. Here is the real question. What did they discover that shows that David Crowley was the perpetrator of these crimes? Because they're saying they have not discovered any information that shows that anybody but David Crowley was the perpetrator of these crimes. So the clear question is, and this is why I was expecting a final report, something that would answer the clear question, is what did the Apple Valley Police find that showed that David Crowley was the perpetrator of these crimes? If this is it, then there isn't anything. What do they have? One fingerprint? One fingerprint on David's left middle finger? Nothing that ties him to the bullet found in the attic 1 month later? Nothing. They found nothing. They have nothing. The case is built around nothing.
They know nothing.
And it brings us to the question of what really happened here. If the official theory is not true, and I believe that it's not true, then what really happened here? That is the logical question that I think a lot of people, a lot of my friends, a lot of people in the group are asking. Then what happened here? For me, I move a little slower, I guess. Because my question here is still, why are they accusing David Crowley of being the perpetrator of these crimes? In these 94 pages, what shows that David Crowley was the perpetrator of these crimes? We know that they found nothing in the terabytes of data. We know that they have no motive. We know that they're guessing. We know that they're speculating. That's not their job. This is one more reason why the case needs to be reopened. Because of the official conclusion. The official conclusion is not supported by evidence. It's not supported by facts. It's supported by the fact that they can't find evidence to show that anybody else did it. So it must be David. That's the way that I'm reading this.
It's a joke.
And if the way that I'm reading it is right, then we need to reopen this case. This case needs to be reopened. And we need to do what we can to help get this case reopened. Within reason.
We need your help.
To the best of your ability. And I believe this case will be reopened one day.
Amen. It's coming.
It may take a while. But I got time.
I got time too. Thanks everybody for joining us here. When I do these live shows, I'm gonna always kind of start off with a little intro video to give people a little bit of time to come and join in. If you want to join into this chat room here, this is the Gray Stage live stream number 1. The date is August 5th, 2019. It's about 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here in the local Bay Area, San Francisco, California, the S-hole of America. And a few things that I wanted to talk about here, to cover here. Hopefully we'll have enough time. I'm going to try to keep these to about an hour or so, maybe a little bit less if I can. Please let me know how the audio is, if the audio is okay. So far it sounds alright. I'm going to skip here to a interview that David Crowley did in 2012. I want to go back to this, to what he was doing in 2012. This took place after after David Crowley had already finished the trailer kind of taken off, all that stuff. So let's go back to 2012 for a second. This is a reading from my feature book titled The Gray Stage, of course. This is in the 2012 section. There obviously is going to be a lot more in this 2012 section. I'm sure you can all understand that. Hey, Pat Hansen, thanks for joining us here. Oh, good. Quality's good? Alright. I'm hoping everybody will be able to find us over here. We'll see how this goes. But, so looking at 2012, this is what I got. This is from chapter 11 of my book. This is part of the chapter called The Gray Shame. This is one of the most difficult chapters that I had to write. What's weird is I thought this was going to be the easiest one, because this is basically, a lot of this stuff is basically stuff that I've written from 2015 on. So, after 2 years in the making, the Gray State movie trailer was released to the public on August 7, 2012. A month after its release, David Crowley was interviewed by Freedom Fiends Talk radio show. The interview, conducted by Michael W. Dean, was recorded 2 weeks prior to its release on September 15, 2012. The Gray State movie trailer cost David Crowley and Mitch House $6,000 to make. That's impressive. Very impressive. $6,000. That's it. I was really impressed by that. And that trailer, I wonder how long it took them to make. If somebody has that, can maybe help me find that answer. I'm sure it's out there. We've probably covered it 1,000 times, but this is 1,001 time. We need to go back. I need to go back over it. So, and David says, that's just out of pocket. through our production company, David explained to Michael W. Dean. That's just money spent harnessing the actors to our set and getting the props that we needed. But we spent another year in post doing 17-hour days. So how do you put a price tag on that, really? I even got the little timestamps there, too. I hope the timestamps will kind of help. Let's see if I can move this down, or if I have to... Oh, I'm probably going to have to drag this. Sorry about that. Hope it's not making you dizzy there. All right. Now the story of Gray State continually evolved. It's gotten deeper, David said of Gray State's story. It's gotten very much darker. So people, when they see this, their response is, as I knew they would be, they're very divided. First of all, they're very supportive, like, wow, this is like a future scenario that we can face, that we are facing right now unless we wake up. Then what they want to do is they want to assign their responsibility for activism to my project and assume that's what I want to do, is wake people up with Gray State, when in fact I can't make any such moral distinction because I'm a filmmaker. I'm an artist. What I'm going to do is explore human truths, and I can do so through a pretty messed up context like the Gray State world. But how real or how not real it is completely irrelevant. Interesting. Okay. I think I'm going to have to utilize this little bad boy here. What I'm saying is, David continued, people kind of expect me to tell their story, their vision of truth with Gray State, and that's not my intent. If it resonates with truth with you, that is great. If it doesn't, that's also great. But what I've been seeing is that the 3% or so who really hate Gray State, they don't hate it because it was shot poorly, or that story could never work, and here's why. They hate it because it threatens them. It threatens their reality. And that just tells me that what I'm doing is close to the truth, at least, because they're that threatened by it. I think that the reality that most people live in is almost like a religion. Like if you challenge a Christian or a Muslim who just grew up believing what they believe, they don't know how to defend it logically. What they're going to do is they're going to lash out in a very knee-jerk and negative way. Let me read that again. What they're going to do is they're going to lash out in a very knee-jerk and negative response to defend their reality. And that's just the nature of humanity, I think. So what I'm seeing is in their reaction to Gray State is either a very positive or very negative. It's a very polarized argument. I agree with that. He's right on the money with that one. David made it clear he was not interested in selling the Gray State project unless it was for serious money. If a studio bought this project, David said to the host, it would just get put on a shelf or be drastically changed from its original message. So in the interest of maintaining creative control, I will not sell this project. However, if it goes nowhere and someone's offering me $200 million or so, or something awesome like that, who knows? I gotta feed the monkey. I still don't know what that means when he says that. It must be some inside joke or something. But as it stands right now, I want to get this film funded, and I will get it made for whatever budget I can get. If that means $500,000, great. If that means $25 million, like it needs, then that's great too. But this movie will get made, even if it's a long-term haul. Looking at the situation now, looking at everything that we know now, you can see this passion. Now, you can argue this is 2012, and by 2014, by the end of 2014, things had changed. I don't think so. Okay, so when Michael W. Dean asked if the eventual movie would have a happy ending, David responded by asking the host a question. What do you think? You tell me. I would guess and hope that it probably has a triumphant ending, Dean answered. But it's the hero standing on a pile of bodies, some of them people he knew. That's pretty close, David admitted. That's pretty astute. I'm proud of you. There will be a pile of bodies. You won't know who's going to end up in that pile when you're watching it. A film has to follow convention. It has to follow that storytelling formula. Otherwise, the story doesn't work. But once you know those rules, you can break those rules. And Gray State breaks rules in that it's not only immediately physical, it's interdimensional. It's very layered. It's spiritual at times, without adhering to any sort of Western philosophy, but it's deep. It's taken me a long time to craft this story, and while it might not be a physically surface level happy ending, anyone who's paying attention will extract some real values from the ending. The Gray State trailer did not put David Crowley in debt. It's all paid for. We paid cash for everything. If Gray State takes off and starts to pay the bills, that'll be sweet. Otherwise, it'd have to take a back burner while we make a living. So again, more planning for the future, planning for whatever it took to get this movie made. Not somebody who's going to say whatever it took and 2 years later kill himself. Kill his wife and his daughter, rip his daughter's arm off, take his wife's hands off, and somehow manage to take his own hand off or allow the dog to eat it. Whatever. David also explained the filming process for the movie trailer. We wanted to do it for real, but a lot of it was just guerrilla, unfortunately. A lot of the scenes we did, it was like it had the real scale of a real production. So a lot of them, yes, we went to the city, we got permits, we hired cops to babysit us for a few hours, and we did it for real. But a lot of the stuff was just guerrilla, just because we couldn't get a hold of the city liaison who does that stuff, or they didn't know what to do. It was only a 3-second shot anyways. So there's a couple things like that, but by and large, it was a real production. Now, Minneapolis is a bitch to deal with, David continued. They want to charge you like $150 an hour. Wow. Even if you're just a freelance photographer. The initial park scene we shot in guerrilla style, just real quick. Wow. So that first park scene in that trailer shot guerrilla style. Very good. Interesting. But the St. Paul people, I mean, Twin Cities is Minneapolis and St. Paul. That gets me confused too. The St. Paul, Minneapolis, all that stuff. Twin Cities. Those guys are a delight to deal with. They'll give you a cop. They'll make all the communications for you, and they'll set it up for you, and all you gotta do is send them a check at the end of the day. Now, during the interview, David Crowley was asked if he had made any enemies as a result of the Gray State project. I do know that I've already made a lot of enemies, Crowley responded. And this was a long time ago, actually. I made enemies just by releasing little bits and talking to people about my idea for this film, long before it was even released as a trailer. And I have made no shit enemies just because they don't want to hear it, and a lot of them have been family. Not my family, but I'm talking about other actors who've spoken to their family about it and people who don't want to hear it. And what they do is they assign like, well, that can't be real, so it's going to be a terrible movie, so I don't want to hear anything about it. But I wonder if they thought the same thing about Toy Story. Like, hey, toys don't talk. This movie sucks. So the negative reaction has largely been not reputable. So it's just been a lot of silly banter about, I'm a Zionist pig and don't support my film. Michael Dean also asked if Crowley had ever been contacted by a government agency. If I were contacted by a government agency, David responded, I would not know about it. So I can't really answer that question. I'm sure that I have been. A lot of the reactions I'm getting about the trailer, they want to peg me as some kind of Zionist Jew. I guess because my name is David. I guess that's proof enough for them. My lead actor's name is Danny Mason. Oh, you mean like Freemasons? So they want to develop their own conspiracy theories. They want to say the whole film is COINTELPRO. I'm just trying to develop lists and to put them on. It's all very, very silly. David also mentioned being accused of being a Marxist. Asked if he's a Christian, David responded, I am, but I don't know where to draw this line between what I've been taught my whole life and what is probably more closer to the truth, if that makes sense. I've done a lot of spiritual exploration. I tend to end at the same answers, though. I wonder if those answers that he's ending at is Jesus Christ. I would hope so. David also addressed the critics and negative responses to his project. A lot of people say that Gray State is just fear porn, and they're not going to support it, and it's fear-mongering and stuff like that. Just because Gray State is scary doesn't make it fear porn. And that really resonated with me reading that, because I don't know, I did see it as fear porn. That's the way that I saw it. I know a lot of people didn't, so there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. going through, I wanted to also pull up here this thing about Corey Zarowski. I don't know if I can make this bigger so maybe people can actually see this here. But here's what I wrote. I think Corey Zarowski has some explaining to do. Why would Corey write in 2016 something that didn't happen until after March of 2018? Specifically, Corey states half of Ranya's remains were buried with Kamel. Who told him that? In the interview I did with Kamel and Sidra's friend on March 23, 2018, Ranya's remains were still with Dan Sr. in Minnesota. So that was interesting, going back and rereading some of those early reports. This one here you can check out on citypages.com. I got the link on my page, the gray stage. And so one, I don't want to say anybody's lying. Somebody is wrong. Somebody's wrong. Can't have it both ways, right? Either, I mean, basically, I don't think Corey knows what he's talking about again, and maybe it's not his fault. It all depends on who told him that. So that was another little interesting little tidbit that I found there that I'm still going to go back and hopefully I'll be able to have a little chat with Corey and find out what the real deal is there. So going back here. Oh, there was something else actually before I move on to 2013. Scroll down here for a second. Poop that Chris Peck. This was another thing. One of the early things that we heard constantly. Hold on, I'm going to go let my cat out and I will be right back. Never ceases to fail. Okay. Now, what I was saying, this is from Chris Peck. Chris Peck is another person who tried to make it seem like David's movie came crashing down. It was all over. There was nothing else, and that was it. So this is just a weird thing. And this is from the New Yorker. This is from Alec Wilkinson's article, Death of a Dystopian. And Alec writes, he stopped saying, when he says he means David, he stopped saying that he was going to be famous. He didn't say they were moving to California anymore either. A friend named Chris Peck told me. All he said was that was a pipe dream. Wow. That's really difficult to understand. So you have one person saying that it was a pipe dream. You have the two mics, and let's go back to the two mics. I think I got a little something on the two mics here. Kitty's name is Kisa. Kisa, which in Russian just means cat. Not very creative, sorry, Pat. So, same article, Death of a Dystopian by Alec Wilkinson. And Alec writes that the mics as producers, these are MEG. David Crowley was in talks with MEG, Michael Entertainment Group. They were going to make the TV series Gray State. So Gray State had moved from a movie. It's true, maybe the movie deal fell through and that came crashing down. But it's really not true because they were going to make this into a TV series and then try to make a film based on that TV series, multiple films, games, all of these different things. There was a lot of plans. There was a lot of things happening there. So, Alec Wilkinson writes that the mics reacted as producers do, by considering the script's merits and difficulties. My first pass from story content was, this is kind of a roadmap for the next American Revolution. This is from Michael O'Donnell. So that's what Michael O'Donnell tells Alec Wilkinson. My second pass was breaking it down to what it costs. When David finally heard from them on September 26th, they said that Gray State might be better as a TV series. They did not offer him the contract he had counted on, which technically might be true, but they did have a contract. They were working on a contract. And I do believe Dan Hinton was able to get those contracts. Now, whether the contracts were signed and all that stuff, that's a whole nother thing. But the contracts were here. You have two. On July 25th, 2014, the MEG option, the purchase agreement right here. So this also shows that the project was not dead. It was moving forward. But there you go. They might say, well, this was a July thing, blah, blah, blah. But the option's there. They're moving forward. And talking to Mike Boggio, Dan Hannon had Mike Boggio reinforce that view that they were moving forward, that they were continually moving forward. There wasn't going to be an end. This was not just ending. This was a project that was going to be optioned. There was money involved. Okay, so it's going off my little rant there. Where was the other one? Okay, so didn't get the contract he was offered or he was counting on, but he got something. They don't mention that. Maybe Alec Wilkinson didn't know about all that. I don't know. David was devastated. Making Gray State was his whole world, Sidra said. Sidra is Kamel's sister. In a Facebook post written after David's death, Mitch Heil said that he didn't think David knew how to cope with failure on this scale. But there was no failure, again. And he went on, in my heart, I feel like the stress, the message, the story, and his thought process caused his world of fiction and reality to blur. Well, it sounds like that's what the cops are saying, too. If you listen to what the cops said to Tom Lydon, they're kind of saying that same thing, that David snapped, he went to a dark place, and that was it, right? And we're all just supposed to just believe it, pretty much. Believe it or not. It's that's our only choice. So I was trying to find that article, if I have it here or not. We'll see. Oh, there it is, Tom Lydon from the Fox 9. The Fox 9 guy, if you guys don't know who Tom Lydon is, he's definitely someone that needs to be looked up. Look that guy up. Tom Lydon might be the only reason why we have a lot of the photos, why we know about the Allahu Akbar written on that wall. And there might have been some issue between Tom Lydon and Eric Nelson, who ended up making a Gray State. I'm going to go down here, trying to find one of the quotes. Basically what they're saying is because talking about those blurred lines, that David went to a very dark place, and because of that he killed himself, killed his wife and his daughter brutally, in such a brutal fashion too. I think that was an interesting one. So let's go back here. Okay, so Tom Lydon began his investigative segment declaring it's important at this point to really get all the facts out on the table. I think that's the most important thing here. Mr. Lydon, if you really want to get all the facts on the table, please consider researching the numerous facts you forgot to mention. Chief John Reichel described the Crowley family as the ideal family, seemingly, before stating he believes something went terribly wrong inside the Crowley house. Now, without providing any substantial evidence, the chief then claimed David Crowley snapped. It looks like David snapped, Reichel told Tom Lydon, and took the lives of his wife and daughter, and then ultimately himself. The chief also believed a great deal of the Gray State movie was the reason why David killed his wife, child, and himself. From all accounts, the police chief told Tom Lydon, he was consumed with producing this film, and it was a dark topic. Here you're talking about conspiracy theories and potentially the fall of society. And if you're focusing on that day in and day out, and these materials you're working with, and you're filming exclusively on that topic, that can take you to a very bad place. Yeah, that always struck me as odd too. They say it can take him to a very bad place. And now you have all these other people who were trying to work on the Gray State after David died. Nothing about that. Nothing about taking them to a bad place. So, Tom Lydon is kind of going with this thing. Here, let's just read what Tom Lydon says. Judging by the mail piling up in a paper in the home, the murder-suicide took place the day after Christmas. Okay, the paper in the home might have been dated the 26th. That doesn't mean that it was delivered on the 26th. It definitely wasn't. It's a weekly paper. And there's multiple questions about when that paper was actually taken to the Crowley residence by this newspaper, the newspaper boy. So you have 3 separate dates on that. So they can't even clarify when the paper was at Crowley's house. And Tom Lydon is going to try to make this point that partially based on the paper inside of the kitchen garbage. There was a Sun This Week newspaper inside of that kitchen garbage. Based on that, the murder took place the day after Christmas. Okay. David shooting Kamel twice in the head, Rania once before shooting himself. Between their bodies, a Quran with pages torn out, open to a traditional forgiveness prayer. Now, the Quran might have been open to a certain page, but there were pages everywhere. There were pages on the left and the right side of Kamel, on the left and the right side of David, and everywhere in between. I'd be more concerned about the pages that might have been ripped out than what it was open to. But what it was open to is important too. Everything is important. Nothing can be discounted as far as I'm concerned. And the chief told Tom Lydon David Crowley used Kamel's blood to write Allahu Akbar at the top of their living room wall, close to a clock mounted on the wall. Asked why he believed David wrote the words in his wife's blood, the chief responded, "We believe that was kind of a parting shot, probably at Kamel for having a Muslim past." Really? We believe what? I mean, you, based on what? You can't even prove that David wrote that. There's no proof that David did that. It's just a guess. It's speculation, pure imagination again. So, let's jump a little bit here. 2013, David Crowley completed a revised script of the Gray State movie on June 2nd, 2013, and asked a select group of people to review the updated version of the story. On October 23rd, 2013, the rough cut of the documentary companion piece, known as Gray State: The Rise, was finished and ready for its review. Exporting the rough cut now, David Crowley wrote on Twitter, so stoked. On December 9th, 2013, Crowley added 6 months working on Gray State: The Rise. Now, this is the Rise is his documentary piece. This is the documentary companion piece. It's finally taken its final form, but holy Moses, what a shit ton of work. David, Kamel, and Rania Crowley moved into their new home in Apple Valley, Minnesota on December 13, 2013. On December 18, 2013, David posted on Facebook that he had lost a crucial hard drive during the move to 1051 Ramsdale Drive. The only real loss after moving to a new house last weekend was a crucial hard drive for the Rise. Let me just skip. Whoops, sorry about that. I guess the next few weeks will be spent salvaging everything that was lost. The following day, he wrote, "File recovery sucks, but it's better than not having files to recover. This could take a few weeks." Now, by December 27, 2013, the documentary film was getting back on track. Finally getting back on track, she's been teaching me patience by making me work for the 660 missing clips that remain and crashing at least 6 times a day. I don't know if he's over-exaggerating, but that's a lot of crashing. That's a lot of missing clips. And how do you lose that much data from just moving? That's interesting. I don't know if it was a stolen hard drive or what, or just a misplaced one. There's going to be a lot of things missing here, including the evidence that David Crowley is guilty, but that goes without saying. So we can go ahead and jump, what time? Okay, we still got a little time here. We can go ahead and jump a little bit into 2014. Again, we're reading from the 11th chapter of my book. The book is titled The Gray Stage, and this is the Gray Shame chapter. And this is an early, I wouldn't say an early version, but this is not the finished cut here. This is the rough cut. Now the manuscript for Gray State was about, now we're talking about the fictional Gray State here. I need to make that clear. I mean, it should be clear if you know what a manuscript is, I guess. But the script for the Gray State was about to go through a serious revision on January 15th, 2014. Some seclusion writing this weekend, David Crowley wrote on Facebook. For those of you who read the Gray State script, it's about to get gutted for the necessity of a clear, concise, entertaining, and effective film. For all the chewy details that are going to get cut, well, it's always the novel. 5 days later, on January 20th, the story had completely changed. After 2 years of trying to extract the Gray State story, I think I finally may have done it. The story has completely changed, is working beautifully, and the new outline was completed in only the last 3 days. With this new story, it will not be hard to attract funding. And he's right. He's right again. Now, the following day, David Crowley explained he had rediscovered the ending to the Gray State story. It's a strange experience, finally feeling genuine love for characters I've created. The most painful part of writing the conflict for these people who are precious to me is that I must now torture them, punish them, and drag them through the dirt to reveal their essence of form. Yesterday morning I rediscovered Gray State's ending, and the final feeling captured was of such gentle sadness I've been stuck in it ever since. On January 22nd, 2014, David was still settling into his new home, spending today building 2 big fucking new desks to create a man cave mega desk, then relocating all of the Bullet Exchange inventory to my basement. On February 2nd, 2014, David explained the plot of the fictional film Gray State. Gray State, a wounded veteran, leads an insurgency against the corrupt government after his city is put under martial law. Now, the use of force, David Crowley posted on March 7, 2014, no matter the context, should be a shameful last resort, indicating an utter defeat of intelligent faculty. This is the difference between men and children, and also why our childlike society celebrates violence in its exercise of authority, which is true. We see that a lot. I mean, we've seen it a lot before. We'll see it a lot again, right? And the very next day, David Crowley wrote, Sean Stone, yeah, that one, apparently wants a role in Gray State. That's still one of the stranger things that I've heard. Sean Stone also has somewhat of a connection, I guess, to Jesse Ventura, more to Jesse Ventura's son, who was working closely with Sean Stone. I'm not sure whatever happened with them. I'm sure they're still moving around doing their own show. But it'd be good. They would be good ones to reach out to, and I know people have talked about that. I think it's a good idea. It's good to reach out to anybody who might be able to get some fresh eyes on this case and maybe help this case stay in the light. They want this case to go into the darkness, into the void. They want us to go down the rabbit hole, and they want it to get dark as we do. But we're going down into this rabbit hole with light, bringing light, shedding light, sharing light, shining lights, and bringing a lot of light to this case. And so many of you out there have done so much great work, and I truly thank you all. Now, he also says 2 days later, on March 10, 2014, David was happily unsubscribing from liberty and conspiracy feeds on Facebook and Twitter. Too much of the backbiting that they claim to oppose. See you guys, it's been fun. You'll still like Gray State, though. Then on March 11th, David asked the question. Let me go here. You know what liberty feels like? Unsubscribing from hundreds of Liberty or Death, Fuck the NWO pages and Twitter accounts. Now this movie script was steadily progressing on March 19th. Today, in place of thousands of post-it notes, we've seen the big wall of post-it notes, so I know we've all seen it. So you can get a good idea of, kind of the timeline there with those post-it notes. Today, in place of thousands of post-it notes, pages of scribbles, and 30 feet of plot points, I have a 118-page script outline hybrid that may be only days away from a solid draft 1. Now, the first Gray State story took 8 months of solid work. This story took less than 2, and is better in every way. On March 22nd, Kamel was reading the first draft of the new Gray State script, according to David's post. On May 15, 2014, David spent a very welcome morning laying the grain. On May 15, 2014, David spent a very welcome morning laying the groundwork for another 6 films I've been having ideas for. It's nice to finally be free from Gray State. Boy, howdy. On May 22nd, David Crowley's dream had finally come true. There's a big gap right there. So, this is when David, between May 15th and May 22nd, David goes out to Hollywood. Boom. And this is when he first begins working, or when the mics and him are really getting serious about this. So much so that David posts this on social media publicly where everybody can see it. On May 22nd, David Crowley's dream had finally come true. It just happened. I'm not sure how many details I can divulge at this point, but Gray State will be optioned in the next 2 weeks at a major budget and connected with A-list talent. We are connected with the producer who, above all else, wants to preserve the film's pro-liberty ideals. This is all we could have hoped for and more. Thank you all for being our strongest selling point. Let's make a movie. On June 30th, 2014, posting as the Gray State page on Facebook, David Crowley gave an update on the movie. The past month, I've been meeting with some LA-based producers, crew, and other industry contacts, and together we are building the team that will combine our passions and talents and belief in Gray State to optimize its message and reach of its exposure. This has been a truly exhilarating experience. My attorney and I are reviewing the option contract this week. And once that sucker is signed, this whole Gray State thing is going to finally, irretrievably, and monstrously take off for the stratosphere, and in such a way that the message will be preserved, and perhaps even continue in sequels, TV series, and video games. Seriously, talk about taking over the mainstream. This has been my life's work for nearly 4 years, and it is extremely gratifying to be backed by such a raging horde of superfans. Thanks for your patience, guys. Now, we're talking about 4 years, and look at all of these plans for the future. They're trying to tell us that after 4 years, David Crowley just snaps and goes crazy and kills his family, ruining everything, completely shattering this dream, completely shattering his life's work. Hard to buy that. I find that hard to believe. Now there is some gaps here that will need to be filled out because we're jumping from June 30th all the way down to September. So we got the whole summer that is covered in some other chapters, but I think some of that might need to be moved here. I'm not sure yet. But Pat says he no way snapped. I totally agree. I am not buying that. It's too easy to just say, yeah, he snapped. It just seems like just laziness. Lazy booking. On September 30th, 2014, David Crowley spent some time on Facebook answering questions from his supporters. It seems like there are a lot of questions and expectations about this project. For the next 20 minutes or so, I will answer your questions. There are 2 very important posts from David Crowley that were either deleted or have been hidden from public view. One post was made on December 9th, 2014. We'll get to that one later. And the other was dated September 30th, 2014. The missing post from September 30th included a question by a supporter as well as an answer by David Crowley, posting as Gray State, just to be clear. And they had like 3 or 4 different Facebook things going on there too. They had the one for their documentary, the one for the movie. David had his. I don't know if they had any other ones, but in this post, David Crowley mentions his plans for rebuilding a trustworthy team. This was interesting. I think the red flag that this kind of brought up for a lot of people was the fact that why would somebody take this post out post death? After David dies, this post is no longer there. Somebody was not too happy about David Crowley writing about rebuilding a trustworthy team. Now, it doesn't say necessarily that, all the team up until that point were all gone. They might have been part of this new restructuring, but they might have not. Why that post was removed is a big question. Somebody out there knows. Whoever had access knows. That post was not accidentally taken out, nor was it random. That was a planned thing. Somebody planned to do that and followed through. The question is why. Asked what his biggest holdup was with the fictional movie, Crowley responded, "I'm doing this myself. I say we and team a lot, but when it comes to nuts and bolts work, writing and leveraging the project into securing Hollywood money, it's just me. I hope to change this by reinvigorating the process and rebuilding a trustworthy team." So, that was interesting. And the timing, because if you look at, and we will go back there, if we are looking at when David Crowley started getting into it with Danny Mason, trying to get him to sign some of these things, that began in August. Wow. So by the 30th, here's the letter from September 26th, but by the 30th, it's, David's like moving, he's moving on. And he's not taking Danny Mason with him in the way that Danny Mason would want to be with him. So, guys are getting cut out. The trustworthy team is being rebuilt. Alright, so let's keep going. We're still on September 30th. If you can go back, if people ever go back to look at the Gray State's posts from September 30th, 2014, there's a lot of interesting ones there. A lot of interesting comments. And a lot of win. We can't wait. We gotta see it. Want to see it. Pat says, he knew his team soured on him. They got upset because he caught on. It's possible. I'm not going to say that that's, fact or whatever, or that's what I truly think. But yeah, you have to be open to that. I'm definitely open to it. I think we have a lot of proof that there was a lot of sour grapes between David and people that were working on Gray State. Their stories do not match. David's talking about creating something very, very special, something that's going to break down barriers. It's going to change things. It's going to change Hollywood. If it's not going to change Hollywood, it's going to wake up Hollywood. And there were a lot of people that were not going to be part of that from the fictional side. The problem I have is if they all would have just, shut up and just done whatever David wanted, signed whatever he wanted, I think they would have done pretty well on the documentary and maybe even on future things. And because Danny Mason was in the trailer, I think his character would have found his place in there. Definitely. I think the fans wanted that. I'm not a fan of it, but if I was a fan, I would, from what I see in the trailer, I want to see those guys in the whole film. I'm sure a lot of you feel that same way. I don't like when the trailer is totally different. So I think Mitch Howell might have even mentioned something like that the script had changed, everything had completely changed. It had gotten more spiritual, which for me is a very good thing. So let's see. September 30th, 2014 was a very important day as David Crowley had big plans for 2015. Today's posts represent the first visual beginnings of the Gray State resurrection. I can't get into too much too soon, but with the right amount of hard work, strategy, and miracle juice, the beginning of 2015 should see some amazing progress. Let's see. September, October, November, December. In 4 months, all that changes? And they're like, well, yeah, because of this, because of that. No, no, no. We're 5 days, 6 days. He's counting down. 2 weeks until the Rise is going to come out. There's just way too much. It's on and on and on. If you were to stack up on one side all of the proof that clearly shows David is planning for his future, and on the other side show that David was planning to end his life, which is what we were also told, that there were signs, there were certain things that he did that showed that he was planning to end his life and take his daughter and take his wife with him. No, it does not add up. It does not weigh up. It's fiction. So, Crowley also wrote about a new revamped website coming soon. I wonder whatever happened with that too, and who was going to help him out on that website. And many of his last known conversations involved plans for the future of his projects. On and on and on. Over and over again on September 30th, 2014, David wrote about his vision for the Gray State franchise, a series which could be produced and released way faster than a film, has the potential to subvert this system. How can it not? Sorry guys, but Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, while entertaining, lack a real-world purpose. Gray State will not fail you. How could it? Now, creating the Gray State franchise was David Crowley's full-time job, and he was doing everything he could to ensure that this movie was going to be a success. He was doing everything that he could to ensure that this franchise, beginning with the TV series, was going to be a success. It'll either be a great success story, a spectacular, highly visible failure, but either way, I guess we all put in our best shot, right? I guess that could be said about where the country is headed to. The questions kept coming, and David Crowley answered as many questions as possible within those dedicated 20 minutes. Pat also says it shows to me how positive he was. Yeah, I think he was very positive. He was very positive, and kind of maybe he was shutting out the negative people in his life. I don't know if you think that's true, Pat, but it does seem like he was pretty much shutting out a lot of people. The narcissists, the self-proclaimed narcissist. Anyways. Crowley was attempting to reach out directly to his supporters and doubters in order to address the criticism the project received for its multiple delays in production. Starting a Kickstarter campaign for a future production cost is more evidence that David Crowley was actively planning for the future in September of 2014. We want to run a Kickstarter, but if we do, it'll be for a very specific purpose, like hiring a behind-the-scenes crew to document, run live broadcasts, and give constant updates to the fans. I never wanted fans to fund this. That's like making your kids pay for their own Christmas presents. Now, regarding this Kickstarter, I was wondering who was going to be the crew on the documentary side of this whole thing, doing these behind-the-scene documents and live broadcasts. Come here, Kenny. Somebody was going to get paid for that, and I guess fans were going to fund it. Let's see. David Crowley was still trying to get big budget funding for Gray State in September of 2014. Hopefully, wrote David, the strength of this project as a whole and what it represents with the people will help me get a big budget without sacrificing my intent. But hey, if I can't, then I will take it back to low budget indie like the 2012 trailer. This too shows David had a plan B, just in case the big budget dreams came crashing down. Do you have a plan B? Come here. You're the plan A. It's my cat again. New developments have enhanced the project's honesty and dedication to its origins, wrote Crowley. This is going to be brutal. Crowley also reminded people to stay tuned for updates. We will keep the entire production process as wide open as possible. In response to the comment that it's been 3 years since Gray State was first developed, Crowley responded, "No, it's been a lot longer, and there are years to go." In a separate comment, Crowley confirmed his long-term plans. The film is ready to go, but it might take forever, and then still fail at any point in production. A series might be immediately tangible, and instead of interfering with the film, set it up for success a year or two down the road. Big picture stuff. That probably would have been more of what Danny Mason's character might have been involved in. According to the production group that David was working with, Danny Mason was not involved in these talks at all. David Crowley's most challenging thing about the project was trailblazing this timeline. It's been either a very small team or just me alone working on this thing for years, trying to make it work. I do not just want this movie done so the fans can see it online. I want millions to get blindsided by it in theaters. Now, David's future plans for this movie were clear. We're talking to producers about it. If we can't tease a producer into splitting 15 to 30 million, which is still our goal, then we will take it back and do it independently. The point is, we want Hollywood money, but not Hollywood politics. Now, 1 month later, on October 27, 2014, David Crowley contacted David Kirk West on Facebook. "I like your operation, ethics, friends, and location. When I put together the Gray State web series and shoot nationwide, would you want to produce for the Northwest?" On a constant basis, David Crowley was again planning for the future of his franchise and moving forward to see his life's work become a reality. All of these people know this. All of these people that later are going to tell us that that it was over. Project was done. He was finished. He couldn't deal with it and died. Killed himself. Killed everybody with him. These people know that's not true. They know that. "You work consistently with Christian themes," Crowley wrote to David Kirk West. "Yeah, I guess I do," David Kirk West answered. "It's not really a conscious thing. It just sort of happens." "Stick to what you believe in," David Crowley told Mr. West. "There isn't much honesty left out there." Now, in his article, in his shameful article, "Why I Don't Think Gray State Director David Crowley Was Assassinated," David Kirk West mentioned some very weird, surreal, occultist stuff written into the Gray State script he was given. The script is interesting, to be sure, West wrote in his article. It's a bit messy and hard to follow at times, and whether or not the movie would have been any good would have really depended on the execution, more so than most films are. But I have to at least applaud it for being different. It is far weirder and more surreal than I think anyone who saw the concept trailer would have been expecting. Though there are elements of it present, it isn't exactly the Red Dawn-esque insurgency epic that I think a lot of people were expecting. It delves into some very weird, surreal, occultist stuff. It probably could have been awesome, but it also could have devolved into an absolute mess. An interesting mess, but a mess nonetheless. Now, kind of sounds like David might have been on the right track, going more into the deeper stuff, into the more spiritual stuff, not just focusing on this Red Dawn thing where Russians are falling out of the sky, take over one school and take over this small town, which is pretty much what Gray State is, if you really think about it. Consciously or subconsciously, it's very, very similar. So David might have even realized that and started building on that and taking it into a more spiritual, a more powerful, a more threatening direction for any Satanists or any occultist people that he might have known or been working with, who would not want to hear about Jesus Christ, who would not want a movie that made Christians look good and that focused on real spirituality issues. Hopefully that's where David was going. David Crowley severed ties with David Kirk West on social media sometime between November and December of 2014. West believes David Crowley also unfriended many people on social media for seemingly no reason. No reason. By November 18, 2014, there was no doubt as to whether or not the documentary known as Gray State: The Rise would be released for free. Gray State: The Rise will be made available online for free as soon as possible, Crowley wrote on social media. This is our nonfiction contribution to fight for liberty. Gather your strength. David Crowley stated he was working every day to complete Gray State: The Rise, and on November 26, 2014, he told a potential donor to use that money on something for your girl instead. The Rise is going to be free. Crowley was rushing The Rise to a free online release. It'll be worth your wait. The following December 9, 2014 post by David Crowley has since been removed. Who had access to David Crowley's Facebook account, or why the post and its comments were removed or hidden from David's personal Facebook wall has never been explained. Interestingly, this missing or hidden post was included in a data request Dan Hannon sent to the Minnesota BCA. So authorities were aware of this removed post and its contents, and they were also looking at who might have done it. Is my guess, based on this document, that 485-page document. Here's what David Crowley wrote. Can you believe it? The Rise is almost done. I'm serious. She's coming out to be quite the looker. Can't wait to show you all, but I have to comb her hair for a few more weeks. Anyway, I'm quite serious about giving this film. I have come to abhor the AJ model of peddling DVDs as truth and cashing in on suckers. I have given this film years of my time, and I am delighted for the opportunity to burn it down by giving it away. And I hope you all share this feeling. You've all given this project a lot of attention, and I thank you. Soon it will be time to go live, and we'll get to watch it all unfold. A little cryptic there. So, here is that post here that, as far as I know, you won't find on David Crowley's social media. Anyone want to guess why? Let's keep reading. Now, why would somebody remove or hide this post from David Crowley's social media? Various screenshots are all that remain of the post above, and several comments made that day. Because it wasn't just this. Once you delete this post, comments go too with it, right? Now, the first comment on December 9th came from David. You guys are friggin' sweet. I hope the film makes you all proud. I would try to do a private screening or something exclusive, but hearing the news every day, I don't think we have the time. And then here we go. I want to make sure everybody gets this. So this was included in the BCA documents that Dan Hannon got. This is interesting, and I'm very glad that somebody actually grabbed this. I don't know if they screen captured it, whatever they did. Without this, things might have been a lot different. Let's just say that. Now, the first person to comment on David's post wrote, "It's taken a lot out of you, I'm sure. The iron is hot, waiting for you to strike." I don't know if that's the Gray State: The Rise, maybe, or not sure exactly who that other person is on top. But the second person to leave a comment was Sean Wright, who wrote, "You need to call me. I'm all good with getting out free intact. I brought that up. But if it's released before my court, you may send me to prison instead of beating my case. For real though, David Crowley, call me." Sean also posted his phone number in this public comment. Now, Sean's tax stuff is in the leaked version of Gray State, the one that was released right after the documentary that was released called The Rough Cut right after David died. Sean was worried that that release could send him to prison. And we're going to add the results of Sean's tax stuff there too. Shouldn't be too hard to find, right? I mean, we know we have the quotes about what he had to do, and It won't be hard to find out. It'd be nice to have the actual quote to get some factual data there to see how much what Sean had to really do in order to get rid of that tax stuff that he's not worried about now. And don't forget, everybody, pay your taxes. Pay more. Pay it all. Pay somebody else's if you can. Okay, David responded, I don't have any of your tax talk in there, Sean, my man. Don't sweat it. This movie is meant to send other people to prison. Now, because David did not have Sean's number, and David did not really address too much of what Sean was saying, or that, yes, I'll call you, or he made it seem like he was going to call him or anything. This shows the actual distance here. December 9th. Sean Wright might have been one of the people that was cut out that David was not talking to, not seriously talking to, kind of shying away from during this time. We also know that Sean Wright went to David Crowley's house and claims to be one of the last people to have seen David Crowley, and was probably one of the last people that was let into the house. Sean Wright told us all this. Yeah, he said that. You won't find Sean Wright in those 94 pages. The 94 pages of police reports mention his name and give you some factual data about him, but that's it. That's it. Not much. During a December 17, 2014 email exchange with Jason Allen, David Crowley relayed his plans for releasing the documentary film in a few weeks. When you see The Rise and the new trailers for the Gray State series, you'll know what I mean when I say I have followed my heart at every step. I have no idea how much money is going to come together when this kicks off here in a few weeks, but it might be enough to get started on a series, then independent features running a common storyline. David Crowley met with Jason Allen in Los Angeles sometime in September of 2014 and was very much excited about releasing this documentary, according to what Allen said in a Pioneer Press News article. The email exchange also revealed the rising interest in the Gray State project. Gray State fans are growing at a rate of 100 to 200 per day, even now, Crowley wrote to Allen, and when I get started, I can only expect they'll keep coming. David asked Jason Allen to be an executive producer for Gray State for the fictional film. But before Allen could respond to the request, the deceased Crowley was already being accused of a double murder-suicide. Jason Allen found it hard to believe that David Crowley would murder his wife and child before taking his own life. David had this consistency and this very steady way about him. In many ways, it felt very contradictory to the actions of a murder-suicide. I truly saw an optimism to him. At the same time David is allegedly distancing himself from family and select friends, Kamel was helping her husband build a database of professionals, actors, and other industry contacts interested in the project, according to Nick Ferraro's Pioneer Press article. In the first hour of December 25, 2014, Gray State The Rise posted a link to the Patriots Guild Facebook page with the following comment: an excellent group/page run by some real patriots that are close friends of ours. Make sure to give them a like. They have a lot of great things on the horizon. Now that was possibly David's last post before he died, if in fact it was David Crowley posting as Gray State at that time. In the comment section, somebody asked when the Gray State movie would be released. And Gray State The Rise responds, make sure to follow this page, Gray State, for updates on filming. In a separate comment, Gray State The Rise wrote, and it's not an easy feat when trying to maintain the story's integrity without selling out and having such a small team. Who was part of the small team at that time and who was not? Very important to know. According to Pat Pfeiffer of the Star Tribune, on December 26 or December 27, 2014, Daniel Crowley Jr. went to his brother's house to drop off Christmas presents along with some mail for David. However, police reports clearly state Dan Jr. went to his brother's house on December 28th. So, trying to figure out why there would even be any conflicting dates or anything like that. I thought that was pretty odd. I think in the sloppymentary, Dan Jr. also mentioned going to his brother's house on the 22nd. Mason Hendricks, a friend of David Crowley, said Dan Jr. saw Paleo, the family dog, pop his head up through the large front picture window. Dan dropped off Christmas presents by the front door and tried contacting his brother several times afterwards, but David never responded to his phone calls or text messages. Dan Jr. and David's father, Daniel Crowley Sr., also tried to contact David and Kamel, but was unsuccessful. According to Pat Pfeiffer's Star Tribune article, Daniel Crowley hadn't heard from his son and daughter-in-law over the holidays. During a brief interview, presumably with Pat Pfeiffer, Daniel Crowley Sr. was quoted with, "We tried." Alright, and that wraps up our hour here. Thank you everybody for joining me. I really appreciate you all coming on here, and we will be back next time. We're going to discuss some other things. I think maybe next time we'll go through the notepad, David Crowley's notepad, and we can jump around here, and if any other topics want to get brought up, we'll talk about those too. Until next time, keep up the great fight, and again, thank you all.